I find it quite interesting that many black people cannot have a constructive discourse on a subject. I've been running a blog for about 5 years now, and in the last couple of years, when I've been writing about men's issues, I've run into some people who disagree, and instead of disagreeing and just making their point and moving on, they can't. They just continue to go on and on and on and on. About a week ago, I did a blog about the perpetuation of black brutes in media, and there was an individual who they just wanted to keep going on and on, and it got to the point where I had to close several discussions, and I had to delete comments, and the person continues to keep coming back, and I have to keep deleting their comments. And I notice it clearly tells me that this person either comes from a single mother household or they have some sort of mental health issue. Because I notice in the case of many African American men and people who come from single mother households, when you disagree with them, they will just keep going and going and going and going, even after you walk away. They insist on having the last word. They insist on because that's what they see their single mother doing. That she argues and argues and argues until the point where the other person walks away, and then they launch into their shaming language. And this is disturbing because I have written blogs that have been read by people all over the world, and most adults drop their point, make their points, reply to the comment, and they move on. With black people, especially people from single mother households, they continue to go on and on and on and on, and they do not know when to stop. A normal person will just say, look, I disagree with the points this writer is making on his blog or in his videos or in their content, and if this is the viewpoint that this individual has, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to move to the next page. I mean, there are 3 trillion, that's the minimum, 3 trillion web pages out there. But yet, when it comes to black people, they keep coming back to pages they don't like. They keep coming back to argue with people whose content they have no interest in reading. I do not understand the logic behind this, but then again, people from single mother households, this is how they think. If he doesn't agree with me, I must destroy him. I mean, this is a mindset that many in the black community have because of the way they've been raised by these single mothers. And that the only way that if someone doesn't agree with me, they must be destroyed, their content must be destroyed. And this is why we had so much flagging and deleting on YouTube to the point where it got insane a couple of years ago. A lot of these people, they cannot handle differences of opinion. Now, I come from the publishing world, I come from writing, and and in my journeys on the internet over the last decade, I have seen countless views, countless opinions from different websites, and if I disagreed with the opinions of those individuals, I just moved on to the next website. It was that simple. If somebody presented a viewpoint that I found that I wasn't interested in reading about or getting involved with, I just left that website alone and I moved on. Now, I will write blogs about certain things that I see, and what people don't understand is the blog is not an article, it is an opinion, and it's my opinion. And if you don't like the content, you can leave. And this is the problem with black people. They don't understand that there are different views out here, there are different viewpoints out here, and if somebody doesn't agree with you, with your viewpoint, then you don't have to go to that person's page, that person's channel, that person's website. And in my journeys on the internet, this is something I learned early on because back in the early days of the internet, it was anything goes, and people weren't so thin-skinned. And if you didn't like content, there was always another page to go to. And you can just scroll down the Google line and you do a Google search, Yahoo search, and you just go find another page to go to. I mean, life is too short to be arguing with someone online. That's the way I feel about it. If you make your comment and I make a rebuttal, and we agree to disagree, it's okay. We'll move on. But if you're going to continue arguing for page after page after page, this pretty much tells me you have some sort of mental health issue, or there's something seriously wrong with you, because the whole idea of arguing with people online is ridiculous. I mean, I was a comic book fan for many years, and it can get really heated in a comic book debate about certain subjects, but I have never seen the ignorance that I've seen when I go to the black side of the internet when it comes to disagreements on the internet. I mean, your toy collector, your comic book fan, they will have a point where enough will be enough. I mean, if you go to a message board like superherohype.com or thefoosh.com and you start making personal attacks and name calling, they will throw you off the board. And if you go to a comic book group on Facebook and you start making ad hominem attacks, personal attacks, name calling, using excessive profanity, they're going to throw you off the board. But what I find with the black side of the internet is there is just no boundaries and no limitations. Again, it goes back to the way these people were raised, black people were raised in single mother households, that they don't know what boundaries are. They don't know when it is to stop and to say, look, this person disagrees with me, this person disagrees with my points. I'm just going to put a period at the end of it and move on. I'm not going to waste valuable time out of my life continuing to go back and forth with people. And if it's getting this heated, I'm just going to move on. And when you're writing blogs like I do, I write 3 blogs a week, you get a comment, you either agree with it, you disagree with it, and you just leave it alone. Sometimes I leave it alone. Sometimes I'll rebut a point if it's possible. But for me, the nonstop going back and forth, that some people have, the constant arguing, I'm not going to get into that. If I see that you don't want to have a constructive discussion, then I'm not going to discuss anything with you. Like the individual I was dealing with this No Good Deed movie about a week or 2 weeks ago. I had made the point that the movie features black brutes and that media was trying to promote the black brute, and this person tried to make the point that it's okay for black people to be stereotyped and that we need to have, and it's okay for black men to play bad guys. Now, I don't mind. I made my point that, okay, it's okay for black men to play bad guys because I've written black male bad guys. But there are certain stereotypes that you can just look at it and go, this is a stereotype. And when I look at the movie No Good Deed, it is not a horror movie. This person tried to make the argument that it was a horror movie, and I'm like, no, it wasn't a horror movie. It was a movie featuring a stereotyped black brute because the people he killed was he was killing white women. He was put in jail for murdering a white woman. Well, he was put in jail for he was getting ready to do time or trial or whatever for the murders of several people, including white women. And then he kills a white woman in the film, and he terrorizes a black woman. And he's basically your black brute stereotype. You can go to Ferris State EDU and see what a black brute is, and this is what it is. And he was trying to say this is a bad guy, and I'm like, yeah, okay. But when you present these images in media, and this is the other point I was trying to make, it presents and it perpetuates a stereotype. The same stereotype they got Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown killed. And if this becomes the norm, this is what police officers use to racially profile blacks. And this is what used to make the quality of life harder for black people. And because I had also made the point that, Nino Brown from New Jack City was a bad guy, and he was based in reality. The whole thing is that if you lived during the crack epidemic, you saw guys like Nino Brown, and this is what it was in 1986, 87, about 1993 or 4. And Nino Brown wasn't a stereotype. He was based in reality. He was inspired by real life drug dealers who were dressed to the nines, who drove around the neighborhood, who had shootouts. It wasn't a stereotype. I mean, the character of Colin in Noble Deed, he is a stereotype because he is your basic savage brute. And the argument that this person just kept going on and on and on, and I just realized it was to a point where there would be no point in me continuing the discussion because it was just going in a circle. And this is another thing that people from single mother households love to do is they love to create these circular arguments so they can go into their shaming language and call you a sellout, an Uncle Tom, a hypocrite, this, that, the third. They just love to do this stuff. And I was well aware of the pattern. And what this individual does after I close the discussion, because I decided, okay, you know what? I have said everything I'm going to say here. They decide to go to another topic that I was doing because I had already moved on to the next subject, and I've had to deal with this type of individual in the past several times. And what they do is they go to other topics looking to start more fights, looking to start more arguments, looking to continue to go things, not understanding that this is my blog, and just like this is my page, it's my rules and my terms, and if you don't like the terms, guess what? You can leave. It's a whole world wide web out here, and if you don't like the content of a blog, if you don't like the content of a YouTube video, if you don't like the content, you can leave. And this goes back to what I've seen in people from single mother households, in that they have to get the last word in, and it goes back to their I'd say their mental health issues, because it clearly shows a sign of codependency that you need to have this sense of power. You need to have more power over something. You need to be able to say, I can control this blog, or I can control this website, I can control the content. And they don't understand the content goes by my terms, and it follows my rules. If you don't like, if you don't like the content, you can leave. This is a policy that I have followed in my life. If I don't like the content of a TV show, I stop watching the TV show. This is something I learned growing up in the 80s, and I'm telling you, there were a lot of TV shows that I grew up, I didn't like the content, okay, I didn't watch that. I mean, I never watched an episode of Babylon 5. Didn't like the show, so I didn't sit there and complain about it. And this is something that I knew, again, like the last season of Xena. I didn't like the last season of Xena, so I stopped watching the show. I mean, I came in back for the finale, I looked at the last 5 minutes, and I said, hey, I don't want to watch this. And moved on. There are other shows that I just stopped watching after a while, and I said, okay, I don't want to watch this. Like the Drew Carey show. I remember around season 3, I really didn't like the content. And the first season, I really enjoyed Drew Carey's show, but then around the second or third season, I got tired of it, and I just stopped watching the show. I mean, yeah, it was on. I stopped watching it. Again, if you don't like something, you don't sit there and complain about it, and that shows codependency. That means that this website has more power over you than you have over yourself. Because the definition of codependency is someone having more power and control over another individual than they have over themselves. And that's what codependency is. That's what codependency is. An excessive emotional or psychological reliance on a partner. That's what it is. And I mean, that's sad if you say that a website, a blog that you have a reliance or dependence on it, and that you depend on this person to have to disagree and argue with you. And it's really sad that you see a lot of black people, especially people who come from single mother households, they just can't sit there and listen to counterpoints or listen to different views. I mean, sometimes when I go to the library these days, I listen to different YouTube videos, and there are views that I disagree with, but I'll sit there and I listen to it, and I'll process it, and I'll just move on. If it's something I don't like, I move on. But then there are other things that I just sit there and go, okay, his counterpoint, there's some points there I can use. I mean, I remember there was one atheist website, Dark Matter 2525, fun channel, has very, very atheistic views, and I can watch that channel and it disagrees and diametrically opposes my views to God, but I will sit there and listen to it because I can understand, look, he's got a different view, he has a different view of things, and that view, he has a right to that view, he has a right to express that view. And I have no right to go and attack him and insult him about his viewpoints. His viewpoints are his viewpoints, and if I don't like his channel, I just stop watching it. But I found a lot of his videos to be entertaining, and I found them to be quite funny. And I can't say that they were offensive, but when you get to the black side of the internet, you get this: somebody disagrees with me, I want to flag the video, I want to make ad hominem attacks, I want to use shaming tactics, I want to go into all these codependent patterns of behavior because somebody disagreed with me and disagreed with viewpoints that I learned, and my inability to cope with disagreements is to go into the tactics that I just mentioned, and in some cases make fun of stuff. And that is not how a mature adult handles dealing with different viewpoints. The way an adult handles dealing with a different viewpoint is to listen to the other side and completely and try to understand their side of the thing, of the argument, and then rebut the argument with your points. And if you continue to not agree to disagree, and then move on. Again, I've been on the web since about 99, 2000. So it's been a good 15 years, and in that time I've looked at dozens of websites and doing research. I've looked at numerous different views from all over the world, different type of writers, different type of blogs, and doing research for different stories, and I've seen different things, and you learn to just say, okay, that's his view. If I don't like the views presented in this comic, video, web page, I just take the mouse, click out, go to the next site, because in my line of business, writing, what I have to do is I have to just say, okay, I don't really like the views here. I can just click out and move on. But if this person is making points in subject matter, however, if there are points I can use there, I'll use them, but I may not come back here again. And that's the way people have to deal with being on the web. But some people, and I find it very, very sad, these people are supposed to be college educated, so some say that they're professional, can't handle a view that is counter to theirs, and they want to try to take over your page, take over your site, and you can't allow that to happen, and I won't allow it to happen in my blog or any site that I run, or any channel that I run, because it's supposed to be freedom of speech. I mean, that's the whole disappointing thing about when you deal with the black community. So it says, I mean, we're in America, but when it comes to the black community, it's more like a fascist state. If you don't follow the monolithic view of the Negro, what happens is people try to censor you. And I've noticed this ever since I was about 12, maybe 13 years old. If you don't follow this view, this one view of things, they try to censor you. They try to shut you down. They try to put you out of business. Because in the black community, we're all told that there's only one way to think and one way to have an opinion. And if you go against it, if you present a different viewpoint, you get the arguing, the name calling, the shaming tactics, any attempt to silence you. I mean, in some ways, I've written blogs about this. I wrote a blog about this about 2009 where I compared the black community to Nazi Germany and of being a fascist state where you can only have this one view. And one of the most interesting things that I got from watching a David Carroll video Again, I really like his videos because he presents a really objective view of things. Um, and he's made me think about some things, especially when it comes to media and image, is that if it does not fit within the narrative of this white liberal, Negro won't go for it. And I've seen this personally. Again, I saw this with this No Good Deed movie about just 2, 3 weeks ago. I saw that. The movie fit the narrative of what the white liberal wanted to see black people act like, and black people just ran for it. And there were several other black films that presented humanized images, like I Will Follow, did not get seen. Did not even get any press, but No Good Deed, everybody ran out and went to see that movie because it fits the narrative. And the same thing with 12 Years a Slave and all these other movies. However, if you present an argument that is opposed to this, black people try to shut you down. They try to shout you down. They try to censor you. And this is what is interesting about black people. You're the most. This is the great irony I've noticed about black people. They're the most oppressed people in America, but they make every effort to censor independent thought. That's the greatest irony. And this is an irony that I came to the conclusion about 13 years old, 1987, that we're supposed to be the most oppressed people, yet we make every effort to oppress ourselves. And it's our own self-oppression and self-suppression that prevents different views from coming out, and a diversity of opinions and independent thought from coming to the surface. And because people can't disagree and have different viewpoints and diverse viewpoints, it prevents the African-American community really from growing and understanding that the world isn't just one way. And that's a thing that I come with black people. They think everything is one way. You present a counterpoint to black people, they just don't want to hear it. They just, unless it comes from one side, they only stick with that one side. It's like they just jump on one horse and they think that's the only viewpoint that is out there. And when people present counterpoints, like myself, that's one of the things I try to do sometimes, is present the counterpoint. They try to censor it, or they try to control it, or they try to have that form of media destroyed. This is fascism, this is censorship, but this is par for the course in the black community. Black people are the ones who need free press most of all, but we are the ones who, again, the irony is we need the free press most of all, but we are the ones who make every effort to silence it. And again, I just need a minute to think. It clearly shows the codependent nature of black people and how they depend on white supremacy and how they need that view, that one view, to make them feel validated and humanized. Not even humanized. They're what they're looking for, because they look at white people and they see a god. That's what they do. And anybody who disagrees with any viewpoint that their white god has, they get offended by, or points out things that they don't want to think about. Because I noticed another thing that black people don't like to do when they disagree is when you point out things that they try to find ways to minimize it or to discredit it. They try to find anything because it has to fit within that one mold. And anybody who disagrees with that one mold, they have to get rid of, and they have to eliminate. Or they just have to discredit them and say that they're crazy, there's something, they will come at you with something. And what I really find is disturbing about it is the going back and forth, on and on and on and on and on. If you disagree with someone, you move on. And that's what normal people do. If you don't like the viewpoints of a website, it's like watching it's like watching a TV show you're not interested in. This is something I don't get with black people. You continue to go to a website you don't like. The best way to it's a waste of your time and a waste of your energy. But you're not going to change the viewpoint of that blogger like myself or that guy who runs that web page. So continuing to go back every week to watch content you don't like is clearly a waste of your precious time. I mean, there's only a few moments of time on this earth. You don't have that much of it. And to waste it arguing with someone all the way across the globe about something you don't like or you disagree with is a waste of your time. And that's the way I always felt about it. And if a site had content I didn't want to see anymore, I just stopped seeing it because I said my time is too valuable. I have too many other things to do than to sit back and argue with people over things that are inconsequential, which is their own opinion. That's their opinion, that's their view, and they're entitled to it, especially if they live in the United States. Everybody is guaranteed free press, free expression, and if they decide to express themselves in a one way and they present a view of things that are different, then that's on them. That has nothing to do with you. And to borderline stalk people online because you disagree with them or to try to destroy what they have built is insane. Because I find every other group in the world will just sit there and say, okay, I don't like this content, I'm just going to go and watch something else. Or I don't like that blog, because when I'm going to go to this other blog. Life is too short to waste reading content you don't like and watching content you don't like. Again, I go back to my old television examples like Drew Carey. I got tired of it. I said, okay, I'm not going to watch this anymore. I can think of dozens of other TV shows besides Drew Carey where I just said, okay, I'm not going to watch this anymore. I'm going to go watch something else because my time is too valuable to waste on things that don't matter and stuff that I don't like. And that's the way people need to see the internet. They need to see it as, okay, there are different views here, there are different opinions here. If I don't agree with those opinions, that's that person's opinion. We're going to move on from this point. And I'm going to move on here and end this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.